Now, welcome back to your learning journey. Now, as we continue further in this hands-on, we'll go ahead and create a Docker file. We'll perform the basic testing of our Docker image, and then we are going to store our entire code repository in the GitHub. Okay, that's the overall activity that we'll be performing in this video. Now, if you have not watched the video, go ahead and see the previous video where we have actually created the machine learning model, modularized the code, and deployed our machine learning model as a Flask application. So let's get started, guys. So let's start by looking at the Docker file. Now, when we think about creation of this Docker file, so the Docker file is basically contains the set of instruction that system has to follow in order to build the application. Now, think about the application that we are trying to build. See, I want to build the application. Now, if I want to build this application or if I want to run this application, there are some key things that we need to have. One important thing is we need to have an environment which we want to run it. And then apart from that, we need to make use of our source code. And using this source code, we will go ahead and perform the installation of our requirement, like whatever the dependencies that we have got, we will take care of the dependencies and we should be able to execute that application. So these are the key steps that we want to perform in our virtual environment or even in the production environment. We have to select the Python environment, and inside this Python environment, we'll make use of the source code and we'll have to be able to run this application. Now, to be able to run this application in this virtual environment, we need to ensure that this environment contains all the dependencies that is as per the requirement of our project. So let's understand how we can specify this set of instruction. Now this set of instruction is provided by this Docker file. Now to start with, here we are saying this as from Python 3.10. That means using the Python, okay, using the base version of Python, I want to run something right now. So from Python, and I'm going to set the working directory as /app. So /app, which is a folder inside this working directory, I'm going to set this as the working directory inside that virtual environment. Now inside that folder of app, I want to copy the requirements.txt file into this app folder. Now, once I copy this requirements.txt file into this app folder, then I'm going to run the command of pip install requirements.txt. And even if you think about running this pip install -r requirements.txt, what this is going to do is this is going to read the contents of the file and run the command of pip install for each and every line. So if you take a look into this requirements.txt, I'm installing the necessary libraries such as NumPy, Pandas, JobLib, scikit-learn, SciPy, PyTest, setup tools, wheels, Flask, request. So this is the list of packages that I'm installing in my virtual environment. Ensure that you specify the version as well in order to avoid the errors whenever you're doing the execution. Okay, this is the importance of this requirements.txt. So you would go ahead and like perform the installation. That means you will prepare your virtual environment by installing the various libraries. Then once you have set up this environment, you will go ahead and copy everything that is part of your current working directory, that is in your current context, to the working directory of your Docker file. So this is the working directory of my current system. So let's assume this is my environment. So what I'm saying is copy all the contents to my environment by specifying as a dot dot. So copy everything in my current directory to my current directory in the environment, which is nothing but /app. Okay, I'll be copying everything that is part of my current working directory to the environment that I've got. Now, once that is done, I'm going to expose the port of 5000 so that the connections are reachable to the port of this 5000. Now in my environment, what I have to do using the source code, using the environment that we have got, I'm just going to run my app.py. That's it. So this would go ahead and run my application. So whenever I create a container using my Docker image, then in such scenario, I'll be able to run my Flask application. So now that we have everything in place, let's go ahead and build a Docker image And once we build the Docker image, we will go ahead and create a Docker container. So I'll start the Docker application. So I have my Docker running. Now what I'm going to do is I would go ahead and ensure that I'm inside the directory where we have the Docker file present. Yes, I'm inside the folder where I have this Docker file. Now I would go ahead and run the command. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to build the Docker image. So I would say Docker build. I'll mention the tag and I'll specify as iris MLOps. And I'll do one thing. I'll also specify my user ID, that is manifold AI learning / iris MLOps. And the Docker file is present inside my current working directory. I'll say space dot. Okay, this is nothing but the build context. The build context is my current working directory. Now that we have everything set, I'll press the enter key. This would go ahead and perform the build. Okay, so this is performing the action of this Docker build. So now that the Docker build has been completed, that means once this image has been built, so the next thing that I would go ahead and do is I would go ahead and run this Docker image that we have built, okay, to see if it is working as per our expectation. And in order to do that, I'll say Docker run -p, and I would go ahead and specify in this manner. So here I'll specify as 5003 to 5000 of my port. Okay, Docker run -p. I'm exposing the port. And what is the image that I want to run? I would go ahead and mention my image, which is nothing but manifold AI learning / iris MLOps. Okay, that is what I would specify. So I'll say manifold AI learning / iris MLOps. Okay, once I press the enter key, so I can see that the Docker application, like the image, the container is running, and this is exposed to the port of 5000 inside the container. Now I can reach this port of this 5000 using the host port of 5002. So let's do a quick check. So last time I have executed this command. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I think this is the post command that I've used. Let me just run the same. So I would go ahead and execute it from my terminal right here. So here I'll specify the port as 5002. Okay, it looks like there's an error. Let me just fix it. It's actually 5003, guys. Okay, that's the reason we were having that error. I'll have to change it to 5003. See, I'm able to generate the prediction. That means the request is received by this Docker container. And in order to reach this port of 5000 for this Docker container, I've made use of the host port of 5003. I've sent in the request and I've got the response from this Docker container, which means we were successfully able to build the Docker image and run the Docker container using the build instruction. Okay, that's a step that we have completed right now as part of this video. Now, what we can do as a part of this next step is we will save all the source code that we have got inside our GitHub repository. I would go ahead and create a new repository. I'm making use of a tool that's called as Git Kraken. If you do not want to use the tool, you can straight away use it in like just directly go to the github.com and over here create the repository and push the source code. For simplicity, I would go ahead and make use of this Git Kraken that I've got with me. I'm going to say file, I'll init repo, and I'll be creating in my GitHub account. And I'm going to say MLOps iris. So this should initialize my repository. Let's do a quick validation. So if I go to my GitHub account, so there's a new repository that is MLOps iris. I'm going to copy all the files that I've got in my current directory to the repository that I've just created. I'll just move all the file and I would go ahead and perform the commit so that we can take it to the next step. Okay, I'll copy everything and I'll go to that folder where I have just created. So it's MLOps iris. I'll paste everything right here. Okay, now once I have copied all the file to this working directory, I would go ahead and perform the commit. All right, guys. So what we have done as part of our learning journey in this video is we went ahead and created our Docker file, and we have created our Docker image, and we have created the Docker container from the Docker image. So that is what we have done as part of our learning journey in this video. Okay, now once we have done that activity, we have performed the testing, then we have committed to our GitHub repository. So with this, we come to the end of this video. Now go ahead and test out at your end and practice it on your own application so that you get a better understanding as how everything would work together. Now, if you want to learn more and if you're interested in learning with me in the live session, check out the live bootcamp, which includes the generative AI, MLOps, and the LLM ops. And you can also check out the courses on MLOps bootcamp, MLOps with AWS, LLM ops. There are multiple courses that I've had an opportunity to create with Manifold AI Learning. So I'll see you the next time, and I'll see you in the next video.